You think kindness is your greatest strength until the day it becomes a trap. In Willow Creek, a quiet mountain town where nothing bad is supposed to happen, 72-year-old Evelyn Monroe has spent her entire life giving, helping, and believing in the good of the people she loves. But one signature, one moment of trust placed in the wrong hands, sends her world crashing into betrayal. And then through a forgotten wooden box her late husband left behind, the truth begins to surface. A truth that will change everything. This is her quiet comeback. If this kind of story speaks to you, feel free to subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. Now, let's begin. Willow Creek always carried the kind of quiet that made strangers think life there was simple. Small wooden houses, winding mountain roads, pine trees leaning in like old friends, everything whispered peace. But for 72-year-old Evelyn Monroe, the quiet had grown heavier every year since Walter passed. Heavy enough that sometimes she felt she could hear it breathing beside her. Evelyn woke early most mornings, partly because age made sleep lighter, but mostly because dawn was when she felt closest to Walter. She brewed her tea the way he liked it, steeped long, with a spoon of honey, and sat on the porch watching fog rise from the valley. She always placed a second mug beside her. She no longer cried when she did. She simply let the steam drift upward like a greeting to him. People in Willow Creek adored Evelyn. The softest heart in town, they said. The kind of neighbor who watered your plants unasked, who remembered your birthday even when you didn't remember hers. And for years, she had poured that kindness into one person more than anyone else, her grandson, Jason Monroe. Jason, now 35, had been a boy with big eyes and bigger dreams, but somewhere along the way, the world had worn him down, or so he claimed every time he came knocking. Evelyn never turned him away. She had held him through heartbreaks, helped pay bills when he lost jobs, covered rent when he promised he'd get back on track. She gave, and Jason took and took, but she never saw it that way. She only saw the little boy who used to chase fireflies in her yard. That morning, as she swept pine needles from her porch, she heard the familiar rattle of Jason's truck. It clattered up the gravel driveway, coughing smoke, and parked crooked like it always did. Jason jumped out wearing the smile he saved for getting what he wanted. "Graham." His arms were open before he even reached her. "You're gonna be so proud of me." Evelyn felt warmth bloom in her chest. "I'm always proud of you, sweetheart." "No, this time's different." Jason dropped onto the porch steps, tapping his foot with restless excitement. "I'm starting my own business. A real one. Mountain tours, guided hikes, gear rentals. Investors love it." Evelyn clasped her hands. "That sounds wonderful." "It is." Jason leaned forward. "I just need one tiny favor. The bank requires collateral for approval. Just a formality. If we use your house just temporarily, everything will go through." Evelyn's heart paused. "My house?" Jason smiled wider. "Graham, you trust me, right? Those words, 'you trust me, right?' were the thread that stitched their whole relationship together." And Evelyn, with her soft heart and old wounds, nodded without asking questions. They drove to the notary that afternoon. Jason handled the paperwork. Evelyn signed where he told her to sign. He kissed her cheek afterward and promised, "You'll see, Graham, this changes everything." He was right. It did. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived from the bank. Evelyn sat at the kitchen table and opened it with a calm she didn't deserve. But calm doesn't last when the world is about to split. Her house had been used to secure a loan far larger than Jason described, and the loan was already in default. Her breath vanished. Lines of text blurred. The page shook. She steadied herself against the table. This had to be a mistake. She grabbed her keys, left her tea untouched, and drove straight into town to find Jason. She knocked on his apartment door until her knuckles reddened. No answer. A neighbor peeked out, then quickly retreated. Another whispered that Jason had skipped town days ago. And then she heard it soft, casual, lethal. "Poor Evelyn. I heard she's slipping. Signing papers she doesn't understand." By sunset, the whispers spread across town like spilled ink. She's not herself anymore. She shouldn't be alone. She's confused. It's sad, really. People spoke softly, but softly hurt worse. Evelyn went home that night with a grocery bag that felt twice its weight. She set it down on the counter, leaned on her trembling hands, and forced herself to breathe. The next morning was worse. Two women whispered at the post office when she walked in. The pharmacist leaned over the counter to ask if she needed help remembering her medications. A man at the hardware store said gently, "We're all getting older. It's nothing to be ashamed of." Shame was not the problem. Betrayal was. Evelyn returned home and sank into Walter's old chair. For the first time in years, she whispered aloud, "What do I do now?" That's when something impossible happened. A soft thud sounded from the hall closet. Not like something fell, more like something had been waiting. Evelyn stood, wiped her eyes, and opened the closet door. She pulled down Walter's old jacket, and behind it, wedged on the top shelf, was a small wooden box coated in dust. She didn't recognize it. Her hands trembled as she lifted it down. There was a tiny brass lock and Walter's handwriting carved into the lid. "For Evie, only open if the time comes." Her knees weakened. She carried the box to the kitchen table, the same place where her world had collapsed 2 days earlier. She found a small key tied under the box, slid it into the lock, and twisted. Click. Inside were papers, nearly a dozen stacks bound neatly with string, bank statements, copies of complaints, screenshots of messages, a handwritten log, all with one name tied together like threads in a dark tapestry. Jason Monroe. Evelyn's breath hitched. She read letters from people she had never met, describing how Jason had borrowed money with promises he never kept, taken temporary loans that became permanent losses, and vanished when they demanded repayment. Walter had collected everything: date, amount, names, warnings. He had known. He had seen the pieces she refused to see. At the bottom lay a letter. She unfolded it with shaking hands. "Evie, if you found this, it means Jason has crossed the line I feared he would. You always saw the little boy he used to be. I saw the man he became. Please don't blame yourself. But do not let him take our home or the life we built. You must fight now. And you won't be fighting alone." Walter. A sob cracked from her chest. Not because of Jason. Because Walter had shouldered this burden alone, trying to protect her even in his final days. She clutched the letter to her heart. The house felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves were bracing for what came next. She lifted the last item in the box, a sealed envelope labeled, "In case this reaches the courts, contact Attorney Reed." It was the final piece. The world hadn't just collapsed. It had opened, and Evelyn Monroe finally saw where she needed to go. If Evelyn's story has pulled you in, and you want to stand beside her as she begins her quiet fight, tap like so more people can discover stories like this. Stories where gentle souls learn to rise. The letter from the bank lay on Evelyn's kitchen table like a warning she couldn't outrun. She read it again, hoping the words might rearrange themselves into kindness, but they didn't. The message was cold, factual, and merciless. Her home, the only place she had left of Walter, had been used as collateral for a massive loan. A loan in default. And her signature was on the paperwork. She couldn't remember signing anything that looked like this. She remembered Jason's smile, the clipped assurances, the notary's gentle nod. But these numbers, these terms, none of them matched what he told her. Her chest tightened as she sank slowly into a chair. Walter had built this home with his own hands. Every window frame, every beam, every carved edge of the staircase still held pieces of him. Losing it wasn't just losing property. It was losing the last physical trace of her marriage, of the life she had built with the man who refused to let her open pickle jars because that's my job, Evie. She pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. "Jason, what have you done?" The kitchen clock ticked too loudly. Her own heartbeat felt heavier with every passing second. She grabbed her coat and car keys, determined to find Jason and make him explain. She refused to believe he had done this intentionally. He loved her. He needed her. He wouldn't hurt her this way. Would he? The drive to Jason's small apartment took 10 minutes, but every turn of the wheel felt like a lifetime. When she finally parked outside the building, she saw his truck in the lot parked crooked, one headlight broken, the same as always. She exhaled with relief. He was home. She walked to his door and knocked lightly, then harder. "Jason? Sweetheart, open the door. We need to talk." Silence. She knocked again, louder this time. "Jason, it's Graham." Still nothing. A neighbor cracked open their door and peered out. "Oh, Mrs. Monroe?" Evelyn offered a thin smile. "Have you seen Jason? I need to speak with him." The neighbor hesitated. "He, left. 2, maybe 3 days ago." Evelyn blinked. "Left? Where did he go?" "No idea. He left in a hurry, though. Lots of yelling on the phone. Sounded like money trouble." Her stomach dropped. The neighbor stepped fully into the hall. "Hey, I don't mean to pry, but folks around here were saying you signed over your house for him. That true?" Heat pricked Evelyn's cheeks. "I signed some paperwork, yes, but I'm sorry, Mrs. Monroe." The neighbor shook his head. "I think you're being taken advantage of. And people been talking, saying you're, not keeping track of things like you used to. Not keeping track, not thinking clearly. Forgetful." The words dug under Evelyn's skin like thorns. "I'm fine," she whispered. "I'm perfectly fine." But the neighbor's sympathetic tilt of the head stung more than any insult. "People worry, that's all. People worry." No, they judged. She walked back to her car, every step heavier than the last. By the time she reached the driver's seat, a sharp ache had settled in her chest. She wasn't confused. She wasn't losing her mind. But to the town, rumors traveled faster than truth. She drove home silently, the mountains looming in the distance like a reminder that even beautiful places hold shadows. 2 mornings later, at the grocery store, she felt those shadows following her. "Morning, Evelyn," said the cashier, her voice slower than usual. "Do you need help remembering your card PIN?" Evelyn blinked. "My PIN? Oh, just thought I'd ask. People forget sometimes." Behind her, 2 women whispered. "She's been off lately. Heard she's signing things she doesn't understand. It's sad. Really. Getting old is hard." Evelyn's hands trembled as she picked up her bags. The cashier's pitying smile felt like a slap. When she stepped outside, the cold air hit her hard. She paused beside her car, holding onto the door just to steady herself. How had life changed so quickly? She had always been strong, always dependable, always the one others looked to for reassurance. Now she felt invisible, worse, like a burden. On the drive home, the road blurred. She blinked rapidly until her vision cleared. "I'm not losing my mind," she whispered to no one, but the town had already decided. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridge and shadows stretched across her porch, Evelyn walked into the hallway closet to find Walter's old sweater. The chill in the house felt bone deep, and she wanted the comfort of something that still smelled faintly of cedar in the outdoors. But when she reached for the sweater, something thudded above her head, a soft, heavy drop. A box. She lifted the sweater again. There it was. A small wooden box, covered in dust, wedged behind a stack of blankets she hadn't touched in years. She pulled it down gently. A carved pattern decorated the lid, Walter's handiwork. He had always loved woodworking, always carving initials and landscapes into the smallest things. She brushed her fingers over the lid. There were words etched in his neat handwriting. "For Evie, only open when the time comes." Her breath caught. She carried the box to the kitchen table and sat slowly. Her fingers traced the grooves again before she lifted it. There was a tiny brass lock, and underneath the box, taped carefully, was a small key. Walter, always thinking ahead. Hands trembling, she inserted the key. Click, the lid opened. Inside lay a collection of documents organized with Walter's meticulous precision. Papers bound with twine, folded letters, photocopies of things she didn't recognize, names she had never heard, numbers tied to accounts she didn't know existed. Right on top was Jason's name, over and over. Her hands shook harder as she lifted the first stack. It was a report detailed records of money Jason had borrowed from church members, neighbors, even an elderly couple 2 streets over. Dates, amounts, methods, each written in Walter's hand. He had known Jason was manipulating people. He had tried to stop him quietly. He had collected proof Evelyn never imagined existed. Under the documents lay letters Walter had written but never mailed. One stood out, addressed to her. She unfolded it with care, as if her shaking fingers might tear it. Evie, if you're reading this, something has happened, something I tried to prevent, something you didn't want to see. I know you always looked at Jason with your heart, not with your eyes, but he is not the boy you remember. I tried to help him, but now you must protect yourself. These papers will help you do that. Don't let guilt silence you. Don't let love blind you. And don't let anyone take what we built. Walter, Evelyn pressed the letter to her chest. Tears streamed down her face, grief, betrayal, disbelief merging into a single, aching weight. Walter had known. He had carried this truth alone because he didn't want to burden her. He had spent his final months collecting proof to protect her long after he was gone. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered into the empty room. The silence answered back. But something shifted inside her, then something deep, quiet, and resolute. The heartbreak didn't vanish, but it hardened into clarity. She lifted the last item in the box, a sealed envelope that read, "In case this reaches the courts, contact Attorney Reed." She stared at it for a long moment. Something inside her, something she thought grief had taken, began to rise. She wiped her tears and whispered, "All right, Walter, I hear you." She stood up straighter than she had in days, maybe in years. Tomorrow, she would call the attorney. Tonight, she would allow herself one last cry for the boy she thought Jason still was, but only tonight. After that, Evelyn Monroe would no longer live in the shadow of what she wished were true. She would live in the truth Walter left behind. The house was quiet that night, too quiet. Evelyn Monroe sat at her kitchen table long after sunset, the lamp casting a warm circle of light around the wooden box that had turned her world upside down. The documents Walter left behind lay spread across the table like pieces of a truth she wasn't ready to face, yet couldn't look away from. Her hands hovered above the papers, unsure which piece to pick up next. Every page held a shard of heartbreak. Every sentence stabbed deeper than the one before. Walter had suspected Jason for years. He had kept notes, records, warnings. He had predicted this moment with an accuracy that chilled her. But Evelyn wasn't ready to see her grandson through Walter's eyes. Not yet. Instead, she stared at the small, folded letter shed, read a dozen times already. Walter's last attempt to protect her. His handwriting, steady and familiar, felt like a hand reaching out from the past. Evie, if you're reading this, I couldn't tell you in time. Jason has been walking down a dangerous path, and I fear he will pull you into it. You see hope in him. I saw the choices he kept making. Don't blame yourself. But don't ignore the truth. Protect what we built. Walter. Her throat tightened. She traced his signature with her fingertip, then pressed the letter to her heart. For a moment, she let her eyes close and allowed the grief to wash over her in waves. Grief for Walter, for Jason, and for the woman she used to be before all of this. A soft creak from the hallway snapped her back. Evelyn lifted her head. The house shifted around her like it often did at night, wood settling as the cold air moved through the mountains. But tonight it felt different, closer, sharper, as if the house itself knew she was standing on the edge of a decision she couldn't turn away from. She gathered the courage to stand and walk toward the hall. The wooden floor groaned under her feet. At the end of the hall, she stopped in front of the closet, the one where she had found the box hours earlier. Slowly, she opened the door. Nothing unusual. Coats, shoes, old quilts, stacked neatly. A faint smell of cedar from Walter's favorite jacket. But something tugged at her attention. High on the shelf, where the box once rested, she noticed a thin layer of dust had been disturbed in certain patterns, like Walter had placed things there more than once, back and forth, trying to decide what to hide and what to leave behind. Her chest tightened. Evelyn reached for the jackets and pressed her face into the familiar fabric. Walter's scent had faded but hadn't disappeared. She held onto the sleeve as if his arm were still inside. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this," she whispered. Silence answered her, soft, steady, patient. She returned to the kitchen and pushed aside the grief just enough to focus. She began sorting the papers into piles. Financial records, witness statements, handwritten notes. Walter had done so much work, so much preparation for a moment he hoped would never come. But it had. She knew that now. And the truth she had avoided all these years stared back at her. Jason wasn't lost. He wasn't confused. He wasn't broken. He was choosing deceit, choosing shortcuts, choosing people he could manipulate over those who loved him. Her heart cracked at the realization. Even now, part of her wanted to shield him from the consequences. He was still her grandson, still the little boy who collected pine cones for her, who cried when his mother forgot his birthday, who believed she could fix anything. But she couldn't fix this. She wasn't supposed to. This wasn't hers to fix. It was hers to confront. She inhaled deeply and reached for the last envelope in the box, the one sealed with wax, labeled with Walter's tidy script. "In case this reaches the court's condiment, you tell me, Attorney Reed." Her pulse quickened. Walter hadn't just prepared documentation. He had prepared a plan. Evelyn slid her thumb under the seal and opened the envelope. Inside was a business card, crisp and clean. Attorney Margaret Reed. A phone number. An address in town. And a short note. "Evie, she's the one I would trust with my life. If Jason ever tries to take what's yours, she will help you take it back." Evelyn held the card between her fingers for a long moment. She wondered how many nights Walter had agonized over writing that note, how many times he had debated telling her everything, how much pain he had carried quietly just to spare her. A tear slipped down her cheek. "Walter," she whispered, "why didn't you tell me earlier? I would have listened. I think I would have listened." Would she? Or would she have defended Jason the way she always did? That question lingered, uncomfortably honest. She placed the card beside the folded letter and rubbed her temples. Her eyes burned. She needed air. Evelyn stepped outside, the night cold wrapping around her shoulders like a shawl. Willow Creek lay in stillness. Houses dotted the mountainside, with warm windows glowing like lanterns. Somewhere, far off, a dog barked. Crickets murmured under the trees. She stood on her porch, staring out at the darkness. She didn't feel fear, just a quiet heaviness, as if every emotion she had buried over the years had risen all at once. She sank into the porch chair Walter built, the wood familiar beneath her hands. For a moment she let her mind drift through memories. Jason grinning with scraped knees, Walter chopping wood in winter, birthday cakes, fishing trips, laughter echoing across the yard. And now she felt like a woman standing at the edge of something irreversible. The turning point came quietly. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was one thought, soft, steady, undeniable. I cannot let this continue. Not for Jason. Not for the town. Not for Walter. Not for herself. She stood abruptly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. She marched back inside, her steps firmer than before. She gathered the documents once more, every note, every letter, every piece of proof Walter had painstakingly collected. She stacked them neatly, placed them back in the wooden box, and locked it. Then she grabbed her phone. Her fingers hovered for only a second before she dialed the number on Attorney Reed's card. The line rang twice. "Attorney Reed's office," a woman answered. Evelyn swallowed hard. "My name is Evelyn Monroe. I need help." There was a pause on the line, then a calm, professional voice. "Mrs. Monroe, I've been expecting your call." Evelyn froze. "Expecting me?" "Yes," the woman said. "Walter told me you might reach out someday. We're ready when you are." Evelyn closed her eyes as tears welled again, not from sorrow this time, but from something else. Relief, understanding, strength. "Then I'll come in tomorrow," she whispered. "Well, be here," the voice replied. She hung up the phone and placed it gently on the counter. For the first time in weeks, her breathing steadied. The weight in her chest lightened, not gone, but no longer suffocating. Evelyn looked around her quiet, dimly lit kitchen, the same room where her life had been quietly unraveling. But tonight, something shifted. Tonight, she wasn't the woman who signed papers blindly. She wasn't the woman shrinking under rumors. She wasn't the woman waiting for Jason to change. Tonight, she was a woman stepping into her own truth. She whispered to the empty house, "I'm not done yet." And it felt like the first true thing she had said in years. Morning light crept over Willow Creek as Evelyn Monroe stood at her kitchen sink, clutching the wooden box Walter left behind. The night had been long, restless, filled with memories she didn't want and truths she could no longer ignore. By the time the sun touched the mountains, Shed already made her decision. She grabbed her coat, slipped the box into a canvas bag, and walked out the door with a steadiness she hadn't felt in months. Today, she wasn't the woman the town whispered about. Today, she would begin the fight Walter had prepared her for. Attorney Margaret Reed's office sat at the edge of town, a brick building with ivy crawling up one wall and a simple brass sign etched with her name. Inside, the air smelled faintly of pine, and the walls were lined with framed legal certificates and photographs of families she had helped over the years. The receptionist looked up. "Good morning, ma'am. How can we help you?" Evelyn tightened her grip on her bag. "I have an appointment. Evelyn Monroe." "Oh, Miss Reed will see you now." The receptionist stood. "Right this way." Evelyn followed her down a hallway into a quiet office with a warm desk lamp glowing beside a stack of case files. Margaret Reed stood as Evelyn entered, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, eyes sharp enough to cut through a lie in seconds. "Mrs. Monroe," she said gently, extending her hand. "Walter spoke very highly of you." Evelyn's breath caught. "You knew him?" Margaret nodded. "We worked together on several cases, and he trusted me deeply." Something inside Evelyn softened. It was the first bit of comfort Shed felt since her world began to unravel. "Please," Margaret said, gesturing to the chair. "Sit. Tell me everything." Evelyn placed the wooden box on the desk, hesitating for just a moment before opening it. Margaret watched with quiet intensity as Evelyn began to describe everything. Jason's loan, the default notice, the rumors, the disappearing act, and finally, Walter's hidden evidence. As Evelyn spoke, she saw Margaret's expression shift from concern to focus, to a slow, simmering anger. When she finished, Margaret leaned back, folded her hands, and exhaled. "Mrs. Monroe," she said, "this isn't just unfortunate. It's illegal." Evelyn swallowed. "Illegal?" "Yes." Margaret tapped several of the documents. "These aren't small mistakes or misunderstandings. These are deliberate acts, coercion, fraud, manipulation of a senior citizen. And the evidence Walter gathered? It's stronger than anything I could have hoped for." Evelyn stared down at the papers, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Walter had left her a lifeline, a way out, a way to fight. "But I don't want to hurt Jason," she whispered. "His family." Margaret's voice softened. "I know. But he has hurt you far more than you've allowed yourself to see. Loving him doesn't mean letting him destroy you." Evelyn nodded slowly. "So, what happens next?" Margaret pulled out a yellow legal pad. "First, we file a petition to freeze his access to anything tied to your name. Then we gather statements from others," Walter documented. "If Jason has taken money from them, they may be willing to testify." Testify. The word felt heavy. "But will they come forward?" Evelyn asked. With what Walter collected, Margaret said, "They won't be coming forward alone." The strategy settled between them like a draft of cold air, a plan, a direction, a beginning. 2 days later, Evelyn sat in a back booth at Willow Creek Diner, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee she barely sipped. Margaret had arranged a discreet meeting with a woman named Rose Connolly, one of the names in Walter's documents. Rose entered the diner quietly and slid into the seat across from Evelyn. Her eyes were tired, worn down by years of working 2 jobs and caring for her ill husband. "You're Walter's wife," Rose said softly. "He helped me once. Told me to call him if Jason ever came around again." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I didn't know he was protecting so many people." Rose reached across the table and gently squeezed Evelyn's hand. "Your husband was a good man." Evelyn nodded, fighting back tears. Rose opened her purse and pulled out a folded paper. "This is the receipt Jason made me sign when he borrowed money, said he needed it for a medical emergency, but he never paid it back. When I tried to talk to him, he said I misunderstood, that I was mixing things up." Evelyn felt the words like a knife. "Rose," she whispered, "would you be willing to tell this to Attorney Reed?" Rose hesitated only a moment. Then she nodded. "If it helps you, yes. Walter helped me once. I won't stay silent now." It was the first domino, and once one fell, the others followed. Over the next week, Margaret arranged private meetings, some in her office, some in people's homes. Evelyn heard story after story, each one echoing the same pattern. Jason's charm, his promises, the disappearing acts, the guilt he planted when people asked for their money back. Some stories were small, $50 here, $100 there. Others were devastating, like the retired couple who gave him a down payment for a cabin he claimed he could secure for them cheap. Evelyn listened to every story with her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Shame burned her chest. Should she have known? Should she have seen this pattern sooner? Margaret reassured her each time. Manipulators hide their tracks. Not seeing it doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human. Still, Evelyn felt the weight of every confession pressing against her ribs like stones. Then came the final blow. Margaret spread a page out on the table, a bank record with Jason's signature. Except it wasn't his. "That's your signature, isn't it?" Margaret asked. Evelyn stared at the swirling lines, the familiar loops of her handwriting. "Yes, but I didn't sign this," Margaret nodded grimly. "Because this is a copy, a tracing. Someone lifted your signature from another document and placed it here." The room tilted. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Forgery. Jason hadn't just misled her, he had copied her signature. "This," Margaret said quietly, "is enough to take him to court." As the reality settled in, something inside Evelyn shifted like a hinge turning, a lock clicking open, a door shed kept closed for years swinging wide. She looked at the documents again, really looked at them, and realized she was no longer the woman begging for answers. She was the woman holding them. She was the one Walter had trusted. She was the one who carried the truth. The turning point wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was a choice, a silent one. A choice to fight. Evelyn inhaled deeply. "What do we do first?" Margaret smiled, not with triumph, but with respect. "First," she said, "we make sure Jason can't take another penny from you. Then, we bring the truth into the light." Evelyn nodded, steady and calm. Jason had pushed her into this battle, but Walter had prepared her for it. And now, she would finish what he started. The courtroom smelled of old wood and colder judgment. Evelyn Monroe sat at the plaintiff's table, palms pressed flat against her skirt to hide the trembling. The air hummed with whispers, neighbors, strangers, people shed once-baked pies for all gathered, hungry to see which version of her they believed. The confused old woman, or the one finally standing up for herself. Across the aisle sat Jason, her grandson. He didn't look at her, not once. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded, jaw tight, eyes fixed straight ahead as if she were the one who had betrayed him. His attorney whispered something in his ear. Jason nodded, lips curving into a smirk that sent a cold shiver through her. This wasn't the boy who used to fall asleep in her lap. This was someone else entirely. The judge entered. Everyone rose. And just like that, the battle began. Jason's lawyer wasted no time. "Your Honor," she began smoothly, "this entire case is based on the misguided claims of a woman who is, let me say this gently, no longer capable of managing her own affairs." A murmur rippled through the room. Evelyn felt her breath hitch. The lawyer continued, flipping through papers with exaggerated care. "We have statements from several townspeople expressing concern about Mrs. Monroe's mental clarity, sudden forgetfulness, signing documents she doesn't recall, misplacing important items, speaking incoherently about her late husband leaving clues in a box." She said clues like it was a joke. The courtroom chuckled under its breath. Evelyn's chest tightened like a fist. Jason's lawyer pressed on, louder now. "Mrs. Monroe has clearly misinterpreted events, imagined intentions, and mistaken ordinary financial arrangements for harm. My client, her own grandson, had only her best interests in mind." Evelyn felt the walls closing in. She wanted to stand, to shout, to tell them she wasn't confused, wasn't broken, wasn't the fragile old woman they had turned her into, but her throat clenched shut. Her heart hammered so loudly she barely heard Margaret Reed stand beside her. "Your Honor," Margaret said firmly, "the only person confused here is the defendant." The room stilled. Margaret stepped forward, her voice gaining sharpness. "My client is not losing her mind. She is losing her home. She has lost her savings. She has been manipulated, deceived, and silenced by someone who has a long, well-documented history of exploiting vulnerable people. She placed a stack of folders on the judge's bench. These are witness statements, dozens of them, from individuals who suffered financially due to Mr. Jason Monroe's actions. Some elderly, some grieving, some simply too kind to believe they were being taken advantage of. Jason shifted in his seat. Margaret didn't pause, and this she held up one more sheet as proof that Mr. Monroe forged his grandmother's signature on a bank document. Gasps filled the room. The judge leaned forward. Forged. Yes, Margaret said coolly. A traced signature, copied from an old check Mrs. Monroe wrote for Jason years ago. Jason's face drained of color. The escalation came as fast as the judge's gavel striking wood, but it wasn't enough to stop the storm. What followed was an avalanche of testimonies. The retired couple Jason tricked into giving him money for a down payment. The widower he convinced to invest in a business that never existed. The church treasurer who confronted him over missing donation funds. The woman from the diner whose grocery money he borrowed twice. Every story struck Evelyn like a blow. Each voice carried disappointment, betrayal, hurt she knew all too well. And through it all, Jason stared forward, jaw locked, refusing to acknowledge a single word. When Rose Connolly took the stand soft-spoken, trembling, Jason finally looked up, but not with remorse, with anger. Rose swallowed nervously. Jason told me he needed the money to help his grandmother. He said she was too sick to pay her bills. I believed him. Walter told me to be careful. He helped me when Jason threatened to ruin me if I spoke up. Margaret stepped forward. Did Walter Monroe personally warn you about Jason? Yes, Rose whispered. He said if anything happened, to keep his notes, and to help Evelyn if she ever needed it. Evelyn's vision blurred. Walter had been fighting for her long before she even realized she needed saving. Her heart ached with a love so deep it nearly broke her again. By midday, Jason's attorney was unraveled. She tried to poke holes, tried to suggest misunderstandings, tried to portray Jason as misguided rather than malicious. But the evidence piled higher than any argument she could make. The judge finally raised a hand. That's enough. The room quieted instantly. The judge removed his glasses and looked directly at Jason. Mr. Monroe, the court finds substantial evidence of financial coercion, signature forgery, and a pattern of exploiting elderly individuals, including your grandmother. Jason's mouth opened. That's not. Sit down, the judge snapped. Jason sank back, glaring at Evelyn like she was the one who put him there. The judge turned to her. Mrs. Monroe, you will retain ownership of your home. The loan will be legally reversed, and financial responsibility will fall solely on the defendant. Evelyn exhaled a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her home. Walter's home. Safe again. The judge's voice softened. Mrs. Monroe, I'm sorry this happened to you. For the first time all day, Evelyn let herself close her eyes. But victory didn't feel like triumph. It felt like standing on a battlefield after the enemy is gone, staring at the wreckage left behind, because while Shed won her home back, she had lost Jason. Not today, not in court, but long ago. She realized now, long before the paperwork, the lies, the whispers. She opened her eyes and saw him staring at her rage, twisting his features into something almost unrecognizable. He didn't see her as family. He saw her as a barrier he couldn't break. And that truth hurt more than any loan, any lie, any signature. As people filed out of the courtroom, Evelyn remained seated, hands folded tightly, refusing to look at Jason as the deputies escorted him out for processing. Margaret placed a hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. Evelyn nodded, though her chest felt hollow. I don't feel victorious, she whispered. You're not supposed to, Margaret said. Justice is heavy, but necessary. Evelyn looked up. What happens now? Now, Margaret said gently, you take a breath. And you remember that surviving something like this makes you stronger than you think. Evelyn tried to smile. It didn't quite reach. She gathered her things and stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun. The town buzzed softly, people murmuring as she passed, some with sympathy, some with guilt, some with shame for ever doubting her. she didn't stop to acknowledge any of it. She walked straight to her car, opened the door, and paused. Her voice was steady, soft, meant only for herself. "It's over. But the healing has barely begun." She slid into the seat, closed the door, and rested her hands on the wheel. The fight for her home had ended. The fight for her heart was just beginning. And before she drove away, she whispered to the mountains, "Walter, I hope I made you proud. If you're still here with Evelyn, take a moment to like and subscribe. It helps more people find stories where courage rises quietly but powerfully." Evelyn Monroe didn't drive straight home after the courthouse emptied. Instead, she pulled her car to the edge of Willow Creek, near the riverbank where Walter used to fish at dusk. The sky was deep gold, fading into the soft purple of early evening. She stepped out, closed her eyes, and let the cool air brush her cheeks. It should have been over now. She had won. She had protected her home. She had exposed the truth. And yet, standing there in the fading light, Evelyn felt less like a victor and more like someone who had survived a storm that destroyed everything familiar in its path. Jason's face haunted her, the mix of fury, disbelief, and something almost hollow in his eyes. A part of her would always wonder when she lost him, or if she ever really had him at all. She lowered herself onto a smooth rock by the river and let her fingers trace the cold surface. Water rushed past, steady and certain, as if reminding her that life kept moving whether hearts healed or not. She whispered to the wind, "Walter, what would you want me to do now?" There was no answer, only the quiet murmur of the river, steady and patient. She stayed there until the sky turned completely dark. The next morning, Willow Creek was buzzing. The trial had shaken the town awake. For months, people had whispered behind Evelyn's back, doubting her sanity, calling her forgetful or confused. Now they stopped her on the street, offering awkward apologies and condolences tangled together. "We didn't know, Evelyn. I'm so sorry. Truly. He fooled all of us." She nodded politely, thanked them, and kept walking. Their words didn't sting the way she expected. They didn't soothe anything either. She simply didn't have the energy left to care. At the grocery store, Rose Connolly approached slowly, as if afraid to break something fragile. "Evelyn, do you have a minute?" "Of course." Rose clutched her purse strap, eyes shimmering with guilt. "I should have come forward sooner. Walter told me to help you if things ever went wrong. I didn't listen until it was almost too late." Evelyn placed a gentle hand on Rose's arm. "You did help, and that matters." Rose exhaled shakily. "You're stronger than you think." Evelyn almost laughed. If strength meant enduring heartbreak quietly, then yes, she had become strong in ways she never wanted. On her way out, she paused by the community board, where local clubs and charities posted their schedules. One flyer caught her eye: Support Group for Seniors Facing Financial Abuse Community Hall, Thursdays. She stared at it, feeling the strange tug of recognition. She wasn't the only one. She wasn't the first. And she certainly wouldn't be the last. The realization sank into her like a stone dropping into deep water. If this could happen to her, someone with a steady mind, a strong past, a loving marriage, it could happen to anyone. She tore off a tab with the organizer's number. Then she headed home. For days, Evelyn lived in a quiet rhythm, cleaning the house, sorting old papers, drinking tea on the porch. But something restless stirred in her, circling like a bird that refused to land. She kept returning to the same question: what now? She had fought her battle. She had survived. She had regained her home. But survival didn't feel like purpose, and simply returning to her quiet life felt like pretending nothing had happened. One evening, she pulled Walter's wooden box from the shelf again. Not for the documents, not for the evidence. It was the last envelope she looked at, the one she had nearly overlooked the first time. It was small, sealed, with her name written in Walter's familiar looping script, Evie. For the days after the storm, her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Evie, if life has brought you to a place where the truth is too heavy to carry alone, then maybe you are meant to lift something bigger than yourself. You always had a gift for caring for others. Maybe now it's time to use that gift where it matters most. Walter. Evelyn pressed the letter to her chest. For the first time since the trial, her tears weren't made of grief. They were made of clarity, gentle, warm, steadying clarity. Walter had known she would need something beyond justice. She needed purpose. The next week, Evelyn walked with slow determination into the Willow Creek Community Hall. The support group was small, 5 people sitting in a loose circle of folding chairs. They were all older, all tired, all carrying a story they wished didn't belong to them. The facilitator smiled warmly. "Mrs. Monroe, we're honored you're here." Evelyn hesitated, then sat. For the next hour, she listened, really listened as strangers told their stories. The widow whose grandson emptied her retirement account, the retired teacher whose caregiver pressured her to sign over her savings, the man who trusted his nephew with his house paperwork and lost it. Every story felt like an echo of her own. When it was her turn, she drew a slow breath. "I lost my husband. I trusted my grandson. And I nearly lost everything else because I believed his heart would guide him back." She paused. "But I learned something. My heart can still guide me forward." The room fell silent. A few people wiped their eyes. After the meeting, the facilitator pulled her aside. "Evelyn, would you consider helping us build a larger program? Not just meetings, education, legal resources, maybe even an emergency fund?" The words settled into her chest like they were supposed to be there. "I would," she said softly. "I'd like that." 3 months later, Willow Creek had something it never had before: the Willow Hands Foundation, founded by Evelyn Monroe, dedicated to helping seniors recognize, report, and recover from financial abuse. They hosted classes. They partnered with attorneys. They trained volunteers. They provided emergency housing when needed. Donations poured in from neighboring towns, and soon from across the state. People came not because they pitied her, but because they respected her. One morning, as she unlocked the foundation's front door, Rose hurried over with a stack of mail. "You're speaking at the state conference next month," Rose announced breathlessly. "They want you to talk about resilience." Evelyn laughed softly. "I'm not sure I'm the right person." Rose shook her head. "You're exactly the right person." That night, Evelyn sat on her porch with a cup of tea, staring at the open sky. Willow Creek glowed quietly below. The mountains stood tall and familiar. She felt Walter beside her, not in grief now, but in gratitude. She whispered, "You were right. Lifting something bigger than myself. It feels like coming home." A breeze rustled the wildflowers along the fence. She closed her eyes and let the peace wash over her. Before bed, she turned off the lights, walked toward the stairs, and paused at the wooden box resting on her shelf. This time, she didn't feel anger. She didn't feel sorrow. She felt full of purpose, full of truth, full of a future she never expected at her age. She touched the lid gently. "I hope I made you proud, Walter." Then she turned toward the quiet house she had fought so hard to keep and smiled. Her comeback hadn't been loud. It had been steady. It had been honest. It had been hers. And she wasn't done yet. If Evelyn's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support more inspiring stories for mature audiences. Thanks for listening. Which part of the story touched you the deepest? They were listening. You're not alone. Your voice truly matters.